Now, I told you all this is a little different than our normal jam episode. We are not going to go through Nina's life. We don't start at the beginning, walk our way through, discover things along the way. And part of the reason is that I hosted a happy hour with Nina and Sarah Casbier about 6 weeks ago. So I've already read her book, which is different than what I normally do. And I had that happy hour with those two women because they wrote really interesting, and I thought, companion memoirs. Sarah's book is a series of essays about her life after a sexual assault when she was young. And it really chronicles the next 20 years, sort of the aftermath of that happening. And Nina's book is about a codependent relationship that she had that lasted 15, 20 years and destroyed her life. As she's been in and out of recovery, as she's been in Al-Anon, Alcoholics Anonymous, trying to both get away from the destructive patterns of alcoholism, but also the sort of codependent relationships that develop when you grow up around alcohol. And I had them together on that happy hour because, as I told them, Nina's story is really the end is the beginning. Like, she takes us through this destructive relationship, and her book ends at the beginning of her life. And Sarah's book really picks up after this destructive event happens and talks about what happens next. And obviously they're not related. They're not companion in the sense that they tell the same story. But it was really interesting to walk through the experiences of these two writers as they were exploring the pain and damage that happened. One from how it began and one from how it happened after. And so when I read Nina's book, having been in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for most of my adult life, I thought, well, I wanted to really have a personal conversation with her about my life and about what I've been through and about her life and what she's been through, because you can find her story in her book. There was no reason for us to have an interview where we walked through all that stuff. But I did think it was important for us to talk about the parts of addiction, the parts of recovery, the parts of AA, parts of the rooms, parts of the world that you sort of inhabit as yourself as you try to navigate through the world. Because I've been in trauma therapy for about 4 years, and after 25 or 30 years in AA, that trauma therapy has fundamentally altered my life in a way that those rooms never did, although the rooms were very important, and I would not be here had the rooms not been there. And Nina also has an interesting relationship with the rooms of both AA and Al-Anon for different reasons, but also some of the same. And there are just very few times in public life where you have two people who have gone through these things having a frank discussion about what that looks like. I think in the midst of the pandemic, after this election season, with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, it was important to release the episode now and to have the conversation that we did. So in the grand scheme of things, the least literary podcast that you are listening to right now will be even least literary this episode, because we don't talk much about her book. We don't talk much about how she got there, but we talk a lot about addiction and recovery, which is the lens through which both of us, at least right now, see our writing. I've seen that in my writing for 30 years. And her book is really about that. And Sarah's book, obviously different. It's not about alcoholism and things like that, but it is about trauma. And so I guess there's two things that I would say. One, stick around for this episode because it is unlike anything we've ever done. And then I would encourage you to go get Nina's book, Good Morning, Destroyer of Men's Souls, and Sarah's book, A Woman, a Plan, An Outline of a Man, because they're so good and they're so important. And I think particularly at this juncture where we are in the pandemic and with the holidays coming up, they make for a really good read. So thanks for indulging us as we veer off the path a little bit, although it's my show, so I will veer on the path that I would like to go. But I hope that you get something out of it. I hope to hear from people, and I'm excited to bring you this conversation.